Iron doesn't become a sword until it burns in fire, and humans don't become fluent until they burn in the discipline of mourning. Most people want to learn English, but very few people actually wake up at 7 in the morning for their dream. And here's what most people misunderstand about mornings. They think a morning is just a starting time, but it's not. It's actually the direction of your entire future. Have you ever noticed that the first 30 minutes of your morning decide the energy for your entire day? So why do fluent people use their mornings differently than everyone else? See, the human brain in the morning is like a clean whiteboard. The tension of the day hasn't arrived yet, notifications haven't poured in, other people's voices and mental noise haven't cluttered it yet. This is exactly why so many successful people in the world protect their morning, because they know that the first hour of morning isn't just time, it's mental direction. Now, imagine this. One person wakes up and immediately starts scrolling Instagram. Another person, at the same exact moment, starts listening to English, does some speaking practice, and warms up their brain with a new language. Both days technically started at the same time, but their futures won't be the same. Fluent people don't see English as just a subject. They make it their morning identity, and that's what makes them different from everyone else. But there's something even more dangerous hidden here, something most people ignore their entire lives. Here's where most people waste their strongest time without even realizing it. Brain scientists say that morning is when human focus is freshest. So why do most people waste their strongest time scrolling? The real problem isn't laziness. The real problem is unconscious habits. When someone wakes up in the morning, their brain is in the most absorbent state possible. This is why language learning experts often say that new languages absorb more effectively in the morning, because the mind is less filled with distractions at that time. But in today's world, most people wake up and immediately hand their brain over to social media. One reel, then another, and slowly their strongest mental energy gets used up watching other people's lives. Now compare this. One person listens to English podcasts for 45 minutes in the morning. Another person scrolls randomly for 45 minutes. Both are putting in the same effort, but you won't feel the difference immediately. But after 6 months, one person will be confidently speaking English, and the other will still be saying, "Tomorrow I'll start." The real truth is this: success often doesn't come from big things. It comes from small morning decisions. But just waking up isn't enough. The real question is why people don't become fluent even after years of studying. Here's the question that millions of students secretly hold in their hearts, but nobody honestly answers. Have you noticed that despite studying English for years in school, most people can't speak confidently? So is the real problem grammar, or is it the lack of daily speaking repetition? In school, English is usually taught to us as a subject, not as a language. We memorize grammar rules, we cram tenses, we pass exams, but our brain never naturally learns to use English. It's completely like someone reading the rules of football, but never actually playing on the field. Will they really become a player? No, because confidence doesn't come from knowledge alone. It comes from repetition. Fluent people start speaking before they're perfect. They make mistakes, they pause, they feel awkward, but they speak a little bit every single day. And this repeated discomfort slowly transforms into confidence. This is exactly why most beginners focus on grammar, while fluent people focus on practice. And maybe this is the exact difference that creates a wall between classroom English and real-world fluency. But timing also plays a huge role here, and the next question might completely change your perspective. Sometimes success doesn't come from more hard work. It comes from doing the right thing at the right time.
Have you ever watched a lion hunting? It doesn't attack every moment. It chooses the right time. So does the right time of day matter for becoming fluent?
The lion is the strongest animal in the jungle, definitely. But it doesn't run around all the time. It observes. It waits. Then, at the right moment, it attacks with full power. And interestingly, the human brain works something like this too. Your brain is freshest, calmest, and most focused in the morning. This is exactly why language learning experts often say that new languages absorb more effectively in the morning, because the mind is less filled with distractions at that time. Now imagine this. One person is practicing English at midnight when they're tired. Another person is speaking at 7 a.m. with a fresh mind. Both are putting in the same effort, but the results won't be the same. Fluency doesn't just come from how much you practice. When you practice matters too. And if that same time is used consistently every day, then a person's entire personality can change. Now, imagine a scene from your future for a moment. Just one habit and your entire life is different. If you give English just 45 minutes every morning, where will your accent, your confidence, your vocabulary be after 1 year? Most people make a big mistake. They think fluency requires 5 or 6 hours every day, but reality is completely the opposite. Language comes from consistency, not intensity. If you spend just 45 minutes every morning on English listening, speaking, and shadowing practice, then your brain slowly starts to understand English not as a subject, but as a normal sound. At first, it will feel awkward. Then some words will feel familiar. Then one day, you'll notice you're thinking without translating. This is exactly like the gym. One day of exercise doesn't build a body, but a little pressure every day for months can completely change your shape. And the same happens with fluency. After 1 year, you might not be perfect, but you definitely won't be the same person you are today. But there's also a hidden skill here that separates fluent people from everyone else. This is the moment where the real difference between beginners and fluent people starts to show. Have you noticed that fluent people don't translate? They think directly in English. So how does this skill develop? When beginners speak English, their brain first creates a sentence in their native language. Then it tries to convert it to English. That's why they pause while speaking. They get confused. They feel panic. But fluent people don't translate every sentence. Their brain, because of repeated exposure, starts to understand English patterns directly. And this doesn't happen overnight. Imagine how a child learns language. They don't start from grammar books. They listen repeatedly. They repeat. They absorb the environment. Slowly, words start to naturally connect in their brain. English fluency develops exactly the same way. If you listen to English every morning, repeat simple phrases, and practice thinking in short sentences, then after a few months, your brain automatically starts to adapt. The real truth is that fluency comes from immersion, not memorization. But there's one emotional problem that prevents most people from even reaching consistency. Here's something most people secretly experience. Most people get motivated at night, but the same dreams feel heavy in the morning. Why? Because motivation is a feeling, and feelings are never stable. This is exactly why most people get excited, but they can't stay consistent. Successful people don't depend on motivation. They create systems. For example, if someone follows a fixed English routine every morning at 7, then after a few days, they need motivation less and less, because habits become part of the brain. And this is the real game. The person who only works based on mood will never see long-term transformation. But science reveals something else here that explains the entire fluency process. Research says that repetition creates new neural connections in the brain. So is fluent English built on talent or on repetition? The human brain works like a muscle.
The more times an action is repeated, the more your brain starts to create strong connections. This is why English speaking feels awkward at first, because for your brain, it's a new activity. But when you listen to words every day, repeat sentences, do speaking practice, then slowly your brain builds new pathways. Then the same thing that felt difficult before starts to flow naturally. It's completely like learning to ride a bike. Balance seems impossible at first, but after repetition, the body starts to adjust on its own. This is exactly why fluent people often aren't geniuses. They've simply built strong neural patterns through repeated practice. The real truth is that talent might get you started, but repetition is what makes you fluent. And this is exactly why some people improve quietly and surprise everyone one day. Some changes don't come with noise. They come from quiet repetition. Have you ever seen someone who's improving quietly and 6 months later they shock everyone?
Most people notice transformation when the result is already there, but they don't see the months when a person is quietly improving a little bit every day. Imagine a guy who hesitates even while speaking simple English sentences. People might not take him seriously, but he wakes up at 7 a.m. every day. 30 minutes of listening, 15 minutes of speaking practice. He makes mistakes, he feels awkward, but he doesn't stop. Then, after 6 months, that same person is confidently speaking English. People are shocked, and they often say, "How did you improve so much?" But the reality is that the transformation wasn't sudden. It was the result of invisible daily efforts. Most people see results, but successful people repeat the process. And interestingly, successful people don't run away from problems. This is where successful people's psychology looks most different. They don't see problems as walls. Have you ever seen an eagle flying in a storm? It doesn't fight against the wind. It uses that same wind for lift. So why don't successful people make problems into excuses? When storm comes, an eagle doesn't panic. It adjusts its wings to an angle where the storm's wind actually lifts it up higher. And this mindset is what separates successful people from average people. Most people say, "My environment isn't good. I don't have confidence. My English is weak." But successful people turn these same problems into practice grounds. If pronunciation is weak, they listen more. If there's fear in speaking, they start with short sentences. If there's no confidence, they accept daily discomfort. The real truth is that fluency doesn't come to easy people. Fluency comes to those people who repeat despite problems. Storms come into everyone's life, but some people get lift from that same storm. And maybe that's exactly why fluent people seem powerful, even though they're not perfect. This is where successful people's psychology looks most different. They don't see confidence as something that comes from accuracy. They see it as something that comes from practice. Have you noticed that fluent people don't speak perfect grammar, yet they seem confident? So does confidence come from accuracy or from practice? Beginners often think that to become fluent, every sentence must be grammatically perfect. That's why they think several times before speaking, mentally correct themselves, and then hesitate. But fluent people don't calculate every word. They focus on flow because they've learned language like usage, not like a textbook. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. If they overthink balance every second, they'll never ride smoothly. But after repeated practice, the body starts to naturally adjust. English confidence develops exactly the same way. Confidence doesn't come from perfect grammar. Confidence comes from repeated speaking. This is why fluent people often seem powerful despite small grammar mistakes, because their energy isn't hesitant. The real truth is that communication matters more than perfection. And when a person starts giving their brain English every morning, that's when real change quietly begins. The real change doesn't start on the day you speak confidently.
The real change starts on the day you teach your brain to live with a new language. If you give your brain English every morning, will your brain automatically start to adapt after a few months? The human brain has a dangerous quality: adaptation. Whatever you're around every day, your brain slowly starts to think of it as normal. This is exactly why, if someone listens to negativity every day, their thinking becomes negative. And if someone listens to English every day, their brain slowly starts to absorb English patterns. At first, everything might seem fast. Words might seem unclear. Your brain might get tired. But this stage is important, because at this moment, your brain is trying to understand new sound patterns. Imagine a child moves to a new place. At first, the language there seems strange to them, but after a few months, they naturally start speaking that language. Why? Because the environment adapted their brain. And this is the hidden secret of fluency. English isn't just studied. An environment is built for it. But most people make a big mistake. They want fluency to arrive overnight. Here's where most people crash into reality, because social media has destroyed patience. People watch a 10-minute motivational video and expect confidence to arrive. They see a 7-day challenge and think fluency will be complete. But human growth is always a slow process. In the gym, if someone does 100 push-ups on day 1, will their body transform the next day? No, they might just have pain, because the body needs time to adapt. English fluency is exactly the same way.
At first, your tongue feels awkward. Your mind translates. Your confidence is low. But a little practice every day slowly makes your brain comfortable with a new identity. The dangerous part is that most people quit before results come. They think, maybe I'm not talented, when the real truth is that they just don't give the process enough time. Transformation always starts invisibly. Then one day it becomes visible. And maybe that's exactly why successful people don't run away from boring things. This is the secret that most successful people in the world quietly follow. Have you noticed that successful people often repeat boring routines? Social media makes success look exciting. Big moments, luxury, confidence, applause. But the truth is that most successful people's lives are built on very boring routines. Wake up at the same time every day. Practice every day. Repeat every day. And honestly, these boring things give extraordinary results. Imagine a musician. People watch their performance on stage, but they don't watch the thousands of hours when they sat alone repeating the same notes. Fluent English develops exactly the same way. People see the final confidence, but they don't see the boring mornings when someone woke up at 7 a.m. and did awkward speaking practice. The real magic isn't motivation, it's repetition, and discipline makes that repetition possible. The real truth is, whoever tolerates boring consistency, they eventually see powerful results. But the interesting part is that real growth often doesn't happen in the noise. Big changes often grow in silence, not in noise. Have you ever seen a wolf pack? They move at night when the rest of the world is distracted. So does growth also happen in silence? When a wolf pack moves, it doesn't make unnecessary noise. It moves with focus. And this same thing shows up in real growth. In today's world, most people announce their goals, but they quietly work less. While people who are genuinely improving are often silent. They don't show their progress every day, they just keep repeating. Imagine two people. One writes on social media every day, "I'll change my life tomorrow." And another one quietly wakes up at 7 a.m. and practices English. After a few months, the difference speaks for itself. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's building in silent mornings where there's no applause, no audience, just you and your future. And maybe that's exactly why the world often sees the final story of successful people, but can't see their silent struggle. So here's where we end on something important. If you've understood that fluency isn't a talent, it's discipline.
It's not an existing ability, it's the sum of small, daily decisions. Then maybe you've realized what the next step should be. If this resonates with you as truly valuable, then please engage with it. If you believe that the current education system doesn't teach fluency and that self-learning is a different method, then share this. And if a spark has lit somewhere in your heart saying, maybe I can change too, then stay connected so that deep, science-backed insights keep coming to you. Because trust me, this transformation that's happening in you won't happen just like that. It will be the result of your 45 minutes every day. And one day, when people ask, how did you become so fluent? You'll know that it wasn't actually an overnight success. It was the result of silent mornings. It was the power of boring repetition. It was discipline that's bigger than motivation. Thank you for watching.